Embarking a journey with me? Like, I'm asking you, do you want to go on a mission with your boy? What's that mission? The last thing of food. Carter brought this up on Monday. We talked about it today. Made me think about this. I'm going to go on a 24-hour fast. Can you do it? I'm telling you, it's not as hard as it seems. 5 p.m. What's the last time you boys going to eat something? I'm not eating anything until 5 p.m. tomorrow. You can keep me accountable on that. Ask me tomorrow. I think it's great. Mind gets a little bit clear. You do get hungry. Got to admit, do it. See what happens. I think you might like it. I got to start off the show really with something else, though. I have been in the battle the last couple of days with some Texas A&M folks. And they've been all in my chat because I said that LSU having Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, all four of those that were top 7 in receiving, by the way, in the NFL this year. 2 of those guys were rookie, by the way. And the guy that was at 7, well, unfortunately, he had a really bad quarterback. They got cut in the middle of the year, and he still managed a way to get over 1,000 yards. That's just ridiculous in and of himself. Still had 7 touchdowns. That's crazy. I got to mention something here. Because regardless of what A&M fans say, they don't really have anything. They talk about, well, Mike Evans has had 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Well, Justin Jefferson broke every one of Randy Moss's records with the Vikings. Yeah. We got a couple of those. The leading receiver in the NFL was Jamar Chase this year. He had 1,700 receiving yards, 127 catches, and 17 touchdowns. If you're a recruit out there, if you're a college football fan that's out there, now my opinion may be biased clearly, but there is one place and one place only that produces wide receivers, or a state that produces wide receivers at an electric rate. It's Louisiana and LSU. You can't tell me that you look at Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Brian Thomas, and Malik Neighbors, and what all of them did this year. By the way, Brian Thomas also had a backup quarterback at the end of the season, Mac Jones from Alabama, who got cut by the Patriots. Remember him? 3 of the top guys all had double-digit touchdowns. The 4 wide receivers at LSU, the top 4 receivers, Chase, Jefferson, Thomas, Neighbors, 407 catches, 5,727 yards, 44 touchdowns. There is no bigger place to be at, go to, whatever, than be a receiver, than not come to this place. Why A&M, folks? We got Mike Evans. Who else do you have? I'm waiting. But to the rest of the country, what I would say is this. There's a guy like Tyrone Francis who kind of went under the radar a little bit and all the shenanigans. I've seen this state produce ungodly amount of talent when it comes to receiver. Do you have that? Do you have that again? That is the question that I start asking. Is Chris Hilton going to be, or Aaron Anderson going to be, or any one of those players going to be one of those greats? Chris Hilton, if he is healthy, if he does what he did the last 2 games, the sky is the limit for him if he can stay healthy. Same with Aaron Anderson. There's no place better to be a receiver than this place. Nowhere. I think Ohio State's also great, but nowhere. Okay, let's get to it. But I had to mention that. I 1,000% had to mention that. It's not all we're getting to tonight. Wilson Alexander from The Advocate is going to be joining us at 7:30. Looking forward to having conversation with him. LSU basketball lost in Missouri last night. Want to touch on that briefly, but we need to get to finishing and talking about some of these portal additions, or who you may be going after, or somebody that maybe you need. Now, it's going to be interesting because LSU's winding down, but there's 2 guys, one that just got to campus, and Tamarcus Cooley, that I think that we need to talk on and that we need to touch on and that we need to conversate on. But so we'll talk a little bit about basketball. We'll finish the portal. Wilson will join us. Might talk a little bit about baseball at the end. So we got lots and lots to get to. All right, couple of comments. Where is everybody watching from tonight? Greg says, love the show, Blake. Well, I love you being here, Greg. I love you being here. Rob says, I already done it. I had a colonoscopy a couple months ago. I love it, man. I love it. So close to getting the 100 total. We're going to get there. Me, you, and everybody. Do it. 24 hours. I promise you, you'll feel like a brand new person. Keith is down in the bayou. Good to have you with us here. Alexander says Tamarcus Cooley is a lock that he didn't commit after the Ole Miss visit. I'll never say a kid's a lock again in the portal NIL era. Not until they sign. Anything can happen. We're going to talk about Tamarcus Cooley here tonight. I rest assure you that we will. Todd Davis says the 504 New Orleans, Louisiana stand-up. Good to have you in here with us. Pi Mayo, or Moyo, excuse me, says he's in Houston, or she's in Houston. Good to have you in here with us. Adam says, I do 8-16 fasting every day. It works. It does work. It does work. I'm telling you, man, we're going to get to 100. I promise. Or I'm going to do it. Anyway, I think they work gloriously. I think they absolutely. Damn. We got 900 people off in here on a random Wednesday with not anything going on. Good to have you in here. D Music says 318 by the way of the 225, but by the real way of the 504. I've been thinking about our brethren and our sisters in the 504 after last week. Still thinking of you, man. Still praying for that city. Funny what all shit we talk about until something like that happens. We're with you. We're with you, I promise. The 817 is in the building, says Alexander. And DeMarcus says he's in Stonewall, Louisiana. I feel like I've asked so many times where Stonewall is. Stephen Fry says the 337 in this BI, our good friends over at Fry Construction. Good to have you in the building, good sir. Good to have you in here. Yes, the 337 is off in the bit. That is very true. By the way, Stephen, not too far from now, there's going to be crawfish season. I did not. Here's a Louisiana saying. You ready? I didn't have crawfish last year. Speaking of a new year of things that need to change, that will change this year. Just kids and life and diet and other crazy things. Haven't had it. Stephen, y'all tell me that y'all can boil crawfish out there in the 337. I want to find out. Let's do it. All right, let me get to a quick break. When we come back, we'll break down the portal, talk a little basketball. Wilson Alexander joins us. Let me get to a quick break. Everybody hits the like and share. You know the routine by now. What I ask and please ask and humbly ask for you to do. Hit the like button, hit the share button. All those groups, if you're on YouTube, please do the same thing for us. We greatly appreciate it. If you're on podcasts, do us a favor, rate, review, and subscribe. Let's get to this break. We'll come right back. We'll talk the LSU transfer portal and football next. Stay with us. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-000, hey. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Louisiana is unique. The food, the festivals, even the bugs. No, not mud bugs. Unwanted bugs like these. The ones you don't want crawling in your home or business. Trust the Shield from J&J Exterminating. We've been protecting Louisiana homes for over 50 years, earning the trust of our clients because we deliver what we promise. Protect your home from pests. Get the Shield from J&J Exterminating.
J&J Exterminating.
J&J has protected Louisiana homes and businesses for over 60 years.
Call him today, make the pests go away. J&J Exterminating. Yeah.
So I got some news, some disappointing news. Very, very bad, disappointing LSU news here. It's horrible news. I will be out the entire spring break period. Yeah, we're going on a little vacation. We're going to do something that I think is going to be interesting for that. In my mind, I think we were going to do it. I think we will. We're going to do like 2 or 3 hour sit downs with people and release them during the week that we're out. So long form video podcasts. I think it's going to be fun. If you have, the reason I bring this up, if you have somebody that you want us to do a podcast with, just reach out to us. Tell us who you want us to do it with. Be realistic on who you want to be doing with, and we'll sit down and we'll try to do something. See if we can get them on there to do it for that long. We'll see. Just a thought, wanted your feedback. So, LSU, as you probably know by now, James, it was a joke, buddy. I said I was going on vacation. I wouldn't be here for that week. Anyway, as you know, probably by now, LSU is not going to be done in the transfer portal. There are a couple of guys that I think that we need to discuss here very briefly and quickly. So Tamarcus Cooley from NC State posted on his Instagram that he was in Baton Rouge, and he posted a photo from inside the facility at LSU. Hours ago, Zach Nagy of Sports Illustrated reported that or tweeted that where I saw it. Tamarcus Cooley last year had 39 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, a sack, 3 interceptions. 2 of those came in his last game against ECU and NC State. Had another interception. I think it was against Duke in like week 10 or week 9. I forget what it was, but he had another interception. I think it was against Duke. But he is the remaining top safety in the portal. Here's just the God's honest truth. I think at this point, when it comes to safety, you might need to throw everything at the wall at the current moment and see if something sticks. There may not be a lot of safeties that are in the portal that you think are game changers. But at a certain point, and I'm not saying Tamarcus Cooley is that, but you need different guys, regardless of who it is, in that room. Guys, safety play with Sage Ryan and Major Burns has been abysmal. It did not get better, at least in one game, without them being there. From a statistical standpoint, it might have gotten worse. And it might have been why Major Burns and Sage Ryan continued to play. The fact of the matter is there are a couple of options that you have. You can pray to the good Lord above that Deshaun Spears is ready to go. And maybe he is. Maybe he's not. I don't know. But what I do know is that you can't afford to lose out on the situation that you're banking that you're going to develop and a guy's going to take a massive step, first-time starter that you want to be a competitor in, meaning a playoff contender in. I think that you got to do everything you can and let the chips fall where they may. You bring in a kid like Tamarcus Cooley, hypothetically. I don't know if he's going to come here or not. But hypothetically, you bring him in. You need all the help that you can get. You need all the help that you can get at corner. Well, I feel like that you've gotten into that situation. And I say this all the time. All the time. Don't even take my opinion for it. What is LSU showing you by their actions? Well, they've constantly have gone out and brought in safeties over and over and over and over and over again. They've passed on some. They went after Poyser. They couldn't get him. The kid goes to Miami. And even late in the portal process, they're bringing guys in. Unless somebody from the playoffs goes in the portal, well, at safety, well, maybe they know something and are planning for something to happen that not any of us can confirm at this exact moment. Now, teams have been falling out of the playoff. Maybe you still have 4 teams. They have 5 days to enter after the situation happens of whenever they lose, whether this week or it being on the 20th of January. But by then, class has already started for most of these kids. And why would they transfer? Why would they transfer? Because class starts, if I'm not mistaken, for most schools, class starts on Monday. On Monday. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. But can Tamarcus Cooley come in here and give you more production than what you saw at safety a year ago? 39 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, a sack, 3 interceptions, 2 against ECU. That's just not enough production. It isn't. To say that you know for a fact that you know that what you're going to get. It's not. Now, do I think that you need the kid? I would take him in a heartbeat. I would take any safety at a heartbeat because of how bad you've been there. Guys, you've seen it with your own eyeballs. We've talked about this position ad nauseum. More than anybody, we have talked about this position. Even from the beginning of the year, even in spring last year. Blake, what shows out? Well, Sage Ryan had a pick on Sage Ryan had a pick on Garrett Nussmeier. I mean, that was good. Jordan Gilbert, yeah, okay, kind of still a little banged up, but I mean, they're making some plays here and there. I don't know, but they're still getting beat a lot. Okay. Well, they come out and they look the exact same of what they did a year ago. Not shocking in the slightest. Maybe you can make the argument it regressed to some situations. You need to throw everything at the wall. You do not, in my humble opinion, believe that you have a choice in the matter. I don't think that you have a choice. Now, I've been to practices, not recently. I've seen some of the production and talent that you have there. You're not ready, and you're not in an SEC level. Like I look across just the conference, and I don't think that you have some of those guys that they do. Not at that position. And you're one of the upper echelon teams in your own conference. At least that's what we tell all of ourselves. But it's production. So even though it might not be a lot, at least you know that the kid can come in and play a little bit. I have not seen enough of him. But what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to even poo-poo on Tamarcus Cooley at all. What I'm just trying to say is that at this exact moment, unless they know something that I don't, and clearly they do, I'm throwing everything at the wall. Because I could make the argument that, okay, well, Jack Pyburn and Patrick Payton and Butler and Don McKinley under Bo Davis took a big step in year 2. You brought in Sadir Mitchell. He gave you a true nose presence. Jacoby and Guillory came back, and you know what? He might have not been great all the time, but him being a fifth-year guy, the way that he was, he came in and gave you a lot of snaps, a lot of quality snaps at that. Okay, I could live with that argument. I could live with it. I could live with Mansour Delane picked up where he left off at Virginia Tech. That, yeah, he gave up some plays, but man was real solid and quality. Or you had a situation where Jakeem Jackson who Corey went after at Florida and then went after one now that he's at LSU. I mean, Corey has hit on a lot of prospects. Does that kid and young man pan out? Because if it does, okay, I could see an argument that way. Does a 5-star DJ Pickett develop very quickly? Can he come in here and play? Ashton Stamps is going to be a junior. PJ Willen, what happens in that room? The only position group right now for me that I cannot, I just can't see an argument is safety. It's safety. The only argument that I would make is that Deshaun Spears takes a massive leap. Or you have a young, under-the-radar, talented freshman that you're like, dude, this kid is freaking good. We got to play him. So a lot like what happened with Grant Delpit, if you remember. The kid started as a freshman. Like, damn, this kid's 6'4", 198 pounds. He's, God dog, man, this dude's flying all over the place. You remember Grant Delpit. I just don't know if there is a world where I see that it can happen at safety. So, Tamarcus Cooley, we'll see, I guess. We'll see. It's of my humble opinion that young man, if he knows the certain situation that LSU is in, he has all of the leverage. All of the leverage. And in all of that leverage being, you need me more than I might need you, which compensates to, well, it compensates in an NIL world. I take him unless they know something that I don't and that they can go and get a kid. That'd be the only other thing, because there's not a lot out there. The one that you really wanted is going to Miami. Maybe you get in another situation where you have a Louisiana DB that enters the portal that's on one of these playoff teams, then, okay, all makes sense. And then we'll talk about them. I do not know. I do not know. What I do know is this. You cannot continue. Look, Blake Baker is one of the only coaches. I'm going to frame it like this. Blake Baker is one of the only coaches in the SEC that I know of that plays as 3 safety look more than anything. I would assume that you're going to put Harold Perkins at star, which gives me an idea of what you're going to do there. Okay, he's playing a star position. There's one safety. Jordan Gilbert's coming back. Well, Jordan Gilbert did not live up to what he needed to do. That's just the truth. I think the kid was hurt. He couldn't lift his shoulders above his head. The kid gave you everything he had. For that, I commend him. He was your best safety a year ago. There's not a doubt about that. There also comes a part where I don't think that his level of play, if it remains the same, should be a starter here. I do not. And then I look at free safety where I'm like, okay, you got Deshaun McBride. Deshaun Spears. I keep saying McBride. That I apologize. I just think it's such a massive position of need. The only other thing that I would point out is, even though I feel panicked, I'm not panicked, because you still have a spring window, and your final exam, your final paperwork is due after that spring portal is over with. The team that you're going to ride in the season with, as soon as spring's over with and you dibble-dabble in the portal, then it's time to go. Then it's time to, all right, well, look, this is who they're going to be now. Good, bad, or indifferent, this is who they're going to be. And maybe because so many teams need a safety, the safety room could be a lot like what DT was during the spring window. Very much could be, because you're going to have a lot of teams needing to replace that position. I just don't know of the big safeties that will be out there. I don't know their names. What I do know is that there it will be a situation that somebody will enter the spring and you got to take a really long look at them. Now I would. Let's move on from that. Monroe Mills, the Louisville offensive lineman, formerly of Texas Tech as well. The big tackle from Louisville had 2,335 snaps in his college football career. He's given up 4 career sacks. This one I feel fairly confident in, actually very confident in. I think that there's been discussions around football ops about Monroe Mills, the Louisville offensive tackle. Brian Kelly said he wanted another one. Let's see what happens here. I think when your head coach speaks, the entire wheel starts going. So you notice that Brian Kelly's been pretty defensive at safety because I feel like that he doesn't want to throw Toviano or Spears or anybody under the bus because they've had issues landing some, and there's not a lot in there. Brian Kelly vehemently went out there and said, I want another offensive lineman. Well, I think that any O-lineman with quality enters the portal. I think that the first thought that you should have, because it's the first thought that I have, I wonder what LSU's involvement is going to be here. Whether I know, don't know, whatever it may be. That is my first level of thought ever. Now, Patrick Payton was a little bit different when he entered because if you plugged around, you feel like you know that one leaned one way. But in reference to Monroe Mills, Brian Kelly, and if I'm not mistaken, told Wilson this, and he'll be here soon, but if I'm not mistaken, Wilson was the one that Brian Kelly told to that they want another O-lineman. So you have Monroe Mills from Louisville, over 2,300 snaps and only allowing 4 sacks. Because they have constantly let me say it like this. If they go after another tackle and then you didn't play Weston Davis in a bowl game, for me it starts getting very interesting because now I feel like that you're telling me that something's off there. You're not giving a former five-star tackle a shot here. What's up? That would be my first question. I feel like the conversations have been had about Monroe Mills probably over the last couple of days. Now, it says plans or Monroe Mills, the whole thing with him, the Louisville tackle, is that he filed paperwork to enter the portal. So I don't know if he's officially in, and I don't know if there's any conversations that have been there with LSU. I do feel like that they'll continue to go after an offensive lineman or two if it deems it necessary. So we'll see. All right. Let me get to a quick break. When we come back, Wilson Alexander of The Advocate joins us. Stay with us. Guys, I want to talk to you about our good friends over the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company. Are you facing tough times due to an injury from a car accident, navigating the complexities of divorce, or purchasing a new home? At the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company, they understand the challenges you're going through, and they are here to help. The lawyer team of Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, along with Morgan Daniels, have the experience and proven track record to give you that peace of mind. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600 to schedule a free consultation at their brand new office located in historic downtown Ponchatoula. They're also doing a special, the AYS special. If you're refinancing or closing on a home in Southeast Louisiana, request the Drake Title Company to handle your closing. If you mention Blake Ruffino and AYS, you're going to receive a $400 discount on title fees. Again, give them a call at 985-386-7600. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Falls and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with a great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. Wilson Alexander, the man himself. Good evening, good sir. And he's got, look at this hat. Look at this hat. You're wearing your own hat here, Wilson.
Personal branding, right? You know, it's we're in Houston.
After you?
I like to say so, but I don't see a dime of the profits, so I guess not. But it's fun. You know, there's a Wilson store in the Galleria in Houston, and it's kind of fun, like just seeing what's in there. You're like, oh, it's my own personal store.
I mean, that would be pretty neat. I mean, you could just buy like a whole thing of tennis balls, and just put it right behind you, like the whole thing, the whole 9 yards. I got a great idea for a new studio for you and you guys and the stuff that you guys are doing. You can have Wilson all over there. Free branding. They can't take that away from you, man. That's all I'm saying.
My dad jokes that they should have named my younger brother Spalding.
Well, or what's the football? What are footballs? What's the football brand name? Rydell.
Yeah, that'd be good. I say they should have named him Nike if you wanted to get like really high quality stuff. But he's like, that's a weird name. I'm like, well, so is Spalding. But okay. Anyway, we digress.
Very true. Wilson, good to have you in here, man. Look, I'm going to leave this open-ended. I'm glad that you're joining us here. We had you on in the preseason, and now that the season's kind of come to an end here, what was your thoughts of just the entire season? Good, bad, and different. Did you feel that LSU, what happened this season, was about what you expected, a little better, a little below? When you look at this season all in a bow, how do you see it from on field?
A little bit below expectations, but not like all that drastically below. And frankly, I mean, my personal thought going into the year was 9-3. So to go 8-4 is just a little bit below that. This felt like a team watching the preseason that had too many question marks, some deficiencies in spots. I think they were pretty well coached, particularly on the defensive side. That I was really impressed by the growth that they showed from last year. It was not an eyesore throughout the season. So you got better there, but there's still a ways for this team to go to get to where it needs to be on an annual basis. They're still, in that second tier of SEC teams going into next season, and they've got to break out of that because they've been stuck there now for a few years. And going 8-4, 9-3, all that stuff isn't good enough. But it's not all that far off from, frankly, what I expected just watching this team kind of when we would get to see them in the preseason and just kind of how things were coming off of last year.
Did you think things were getting bad during that 3-game stretch, that 3-game loss?
Oh, yeah. I mean, gosh, the offense averaged like 17 points per game during that 3-game losing streak, and things did not look good. So, yeah, I was impressed, too, by the ability of it's a small thing that people maybe I don't care about because it's like, okay, what are you really salvaging here? But to finish 8-4 and to win your last 2 after that 3-game losing skid was a good way for this team to end the year. Actually, win your last 3 straight, including the bowl game, even with all the opt-outs. Right. So, yeah, things were looking pretty rough there, especially on the offensive side. And I still feel like Brian Kelly at least needs to make an evaluation on that side of the ball, decide kind of what he wants to do there. But, and then at least give it a good, long, hard look. If he still wants to keep everything in place, that's understandable. But at least give it a look because that 3-game losing streak was tough. That was surprising on the offensive side how much of a step back they took there.
And you had 2 guys that have left already on the offensive side of the ball that are going to be coordinators and play callers at other places. Now, I know that Fitch went to Charlotte and Slade went to Houston. So you have a deficiency at an on-field position coach. If it happened today and you had to put all your chips in on what happens here, do you have any like leaning on what you think will happen at tight end?
At tight end coach?
Yeah, because and not only that, I think even from a support staff situation. I mean, look, man, Fitch was the one on the sidelines with Garrett the entire time. You don't hand that role out lightly if you're an OC. So, I mean, just like if you had to lean maybe where they go, not person, but I just mean style of what you think that they do.
I haven't given it that much that much thought really in terms of style. I mean, so Todd Fitch coming in, obviously he had a lot of experience as an offense coordinator, prior relationship with Joe Sloan. It seemed like a good guy to bring in going into Joe's first year as the OC. They also brought in Trey Holtz, who was directly working with the quarterbacks too. And so in Todd's role was a little bit, yeah, he had a lot of quarterback experience. He could bounce around if they kind of need him to, but I think he was mostly with the quarterbacks. I would imagine you probably, though, kind of lean on Trey, or maybe you go out and try to find another analyst who can help you in some way. Maybe you want someone else with play calling experience. Because like you said, Slade had some play calling experience. So did Todd Fitch. And so I wouldn't be surprised if LSU goes to try and find an analyst with some of that, just for another voice in the room, another opinion, another set of eyes on things as they continue to kind of round out that support staff of things. And as for tight ends coach, though, I don't know that you'll necessarily find someone who has play calling experience at tight ends coach. And I don't know that it's that necessary really going into next season.
I don't either. I mean, the only thing is that clearly, obviously, the big connection that every fan makes, at least on this show, they're going to probably ask at some point during here is the whole Tommy Rees being a tight end coach at Cleveland thing, right? Like that's been probably the number one question that we've gotten the entire time. I don't know. But what I do know is that, Wilson, you bring in Bauer Sharp, you bring in, or you see what Trey Green can be, at least the surface level. And I'm like, man, I'm going after anybody that can develop at tight end, because that 1-2 punch can be lethal if you do the right things with it. Maybe I see a really good path for that room if you hire the right guy to help develop. Do you feel that as well there?
Oh, yeah. I'm in lockstep with you on that one, because Bauer Sharp is also someone who really needs development. I mean, this is a guy who was playing quarterback a few years ago at Southeastern and talking to – and he's done some good things as a tight end, but he needs to get good coaching. He needs to have somebody who can make sure that he's consistent. That's kind of the talk, reaching out to an Oklahoma reporter right after he signed with LSU. Just like, so what's the deal with this guy? He said when he hits people, he can be really, really physical, but sometimes he whiffs and sometimes there's drops, and he just really needs good coaching. And order to kind of take that next step into being a complete tight end that doesn't have some of those inconsistencies, because he hasn't played the position for really that long of a time in college. And Trey does in a lot of the same respects. I mean, he was kind of a wide receiver in high school. Obviously, we saw him play more so receiver this year as a freshman, but he showed you what he can be in that bowl game. And so you've got two guys here who really just need to get consistent, need good coaching. And so finding someone who is a proven sort of tight ends developer should be the priority there.
I agree with you. What have you thought about what speaking of, because we talked about the portal, what have you thought about what they've done in the portal? I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I don't know where to even start even asking these questions anymore. I guess when you look at it as a whole, the number one class on 247, I guess, how do you see that it's been going for LSU?
I see it from a sort of 30,000-foot view. They have filled the holes that they had on their roster going into next season, and that they have been able to get a lot of the top guys in the portal at positions of need. But frankly, we are not going to know until next August, really, I guess until next September, if that has actually worked, if it is something that can get LSU over the hump into that 12-team field next year in 2025. As great as the number one class is, in the transfer portal, they still have a few positions that they got to hit on. And we saw Ole Miss sign the number one class in the country last year, and then they go 9-3, not much changes. Meanwhile, Indiana signs a 20-something ranked class, and they are able to flip everything around. So you got to hit on these guys, and we just don't know really that LSU has hit on players at all these positions. And it's going to be really the thing that defines this season, because a lot of these guys, I was looking at it yesterday or maybe the day before and kind of just guessing in my own head, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure 12 of the 14 are going to have like major roles on this team next year. Michael Van Buren probably won't, because he'll be the backup quarterback to Garrett. And then I don't know that Destin Hill will have like a huge role necessarily, like Nick Anderson and Barian Brown for sure. Destin is a little bit more of a question mark. He just hasn't played a ton. He's been injured and all that stuff. So it's like, okay, everybody else I think is probably a contributor next season. So you've got to make sure that you've hit on these guys and that the evaluations were sound. That's kind of my 2 cents on it at this point, because yeah, they've hit their needs, they've gotten highly ranked players, but they need to make sure. But it doesn't just mean it's going to translate to wins automatically.
Well, and here's the thing too, I don't want to hear a darn thing about these are the guys that Baker and company brought in, right? Like, I mean, you went out and got 4 defensive linemen, 4. You only play 4. So, I mean, I don't think you want anybody to be depth pieces. Maybe Sadir Mitchell in the role of like on certain downs. Okay, I understand it. But there are going to be games that I think that they go to some form of zero nose with his ass. I mean, like this kid's what, 6'6", 350? I mean, put him in the middle. Make him be moved. I mean, like that, please, dear Lord. But I'm with you. You brought in a lot, and you talked about some other pieces that need to be hit. But I got to ask you, is there anybody in this portal class that you look at and you're like, man, that looking into this kid, I really like this addition. Has there been anybody like that for you?
A couple come to mind. Barry Brown, right off the top of my head. I mean, that guy, he is so
No.
fast. He is so fast. The way that he moves in space, and you can see like why there's the thinking that, oh man, if he can play with a high level quarterback, which I think Garrett is, especially if he can just cut down on a few of those turnovers, man, like this guy is a deep threat. LSU added, has a lot of speed, as we know, and especially, I mean, he pops though. I mean, what he can do in the kick return game. I mean, he's been good for at least one kick return touchdown a season. And now, can LSU keep that or a sudden streak going? All of a sudden, everybody's returning kickoff returns, but he adds to that. So Barry Brown comes to mind with his speed at receiver, what he can be with a quarterback like Garrett down the field. Nick Anderson fits into that too. Let's see, other ones that there's been so many of them. I'm trying to sift through them in my head as to like who really pops. Also, Mansour Delane. Delane. Yeah, I think he's going to be a really good player for them next year. Just the experience, the proven experience.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever somebody hits the portal who is actually like already put it out there that they can play, it's not just sort of like a question mark and can they develop kind of thing. Those are usually the first ones that jump out to me, and he would be another one. But there's so many that you could choose from that I wouldn't blame anybody else for being like, oh, well, I think more about Braylon Moore or Josh Thompson. Like those are guys who are going to be starters next year too. So it's just harder to evaluate O-line tape for me than it is like watching a corner or a receiver.
Right. And we literally were talking about this last night about Barry and Brown. Wilson, if Garrett can get protection, I feel like what they did was Nuss ain't going to change. He still wants to push the ball down the field. We're going to go give you two options, and really you got four options. If you want to toss the pill around, Wilson, I felt like they went for broke. Really is because if Chris Hilton, God forbid, Chris Hilton stays healthy, I feel like you know what you can get from him now. Like when he's actually okay and he can actually go. Aaron Anderson, Nick Anderson. I get excited about it, to be honest with you, if they can protect. But the thing is, too, I don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball, right? Like, I mean, this has been Wilson, Baylor was 87th in the country coming in run defense. You couldn't bust a grape with anything. So that's the only thing that worries me offensively. I think the sky limit for them offensively is really high.
Yeah, I mean, and it's probably going to be kind of a pass to set up the run type offense. If what we saw in the bowl game can translate into, like you said, they've added all this firepower at receiver. But also, I mean, using some of those running backs in the passing game. I mean, Caden can catch the ball in the backfield. So can Harlan Berry and JT Lindsey, I'm sure, can too. I mean, like, the other thing is, though, with the run game, that's another one of those sort of like unknowns. It's how much can Braylon Moore and Josh Thompson, like, are they road graders? Can they lean on people?
Josh Thompson certainly is.
Yeah, but we need to see it against SEC teams, right? So it's like, can they do that against SEC D lines? And can Cohen Eccles or who was talked about as being really physical? Miles Frazier was talking about him at the bowl practices, just being somebody who's really physical. And we saw him get some reps in. Can he maybe take a step forward? Is he somebody who can really strike someone at the point of attack? They just need that in the offensive line going to next year. Carius Kern, maybe he can do that too. Can he play as a freshman? So there's a lot of question marks on the run game in that regard. But I think it all comes down to whether or not this offensive line can run block better than we saw them this year, because that was the issue, right? I mean, they just could not strike people and move people off the line of scrimmage enough.
Well, and I felt like even at times, like even in that bowl game, I felt like Durham. I'm not trying to call him out. I felt like he was tiptoeing a little bit, like, hey, man, you're kind of moving a little, like, is it toes? Like, it didn't feel like he was explosive the way that we had seen him. I want to ask you about this, too, defensively. Look, man, I don't know if this kid can rush the passer, but I know that LSU has a problem with getting after a quarterback in the run game, and I've seen Jack Pyburn absolutely obliterate dudes. Like go full Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and obliterate dudes. He's got me more excited about football. I watch him. Like I watched the whole interview with Florida with him, and he's like, no, I love football. I want to play football. I love football. Like I love those dudes, man. I'm really intrigued to see a guy like that defensively.
I asked one source after Pyburn signed, what's he like, and the response was just violent. And one source on staff said that, and that's what you see on tape. I mean, he will blow people up at the line of scrimmage at the point of attack, and I think he's going to be really good at like setting the edge and be really good in run defense. It's just, can he develop as a pass rusher? Does LSU need him to develop as a pass rusher? You've got Peyton and Butler and Gabe Relaford as a second-year player. Like, do you need that? I feel like you probably need to bring him along a little bit more so he can be on the field, as a more of a three-down player. But he at least does that. Yeah, he can get after, and Perkins, obviously, if they actually use him that way. But Pyburn's in that regard, I think instantly gives you that. Somebody who can set the edge, who's going to have a mindset that you really like, a physical, violent mindset that gives you something defensively there. And then the other two as edge rushers, as pass rushers, we'll see kind of how they can do, because those are two guys, I mean, with Butler and Peyton, who, again, some question marks. I mean, they haven't been like super duper prolific. Peyton has shown more flashes, but it's got to be consistent over the course of an entire season. Can you take that step under Kevin Peoples is what LSU needs him to do. And that's sort of like what we were talking about earlier. It's like you've signed some highly rated guys, some guys with potential. You've got to get them to meet that next year for you to actually, for all these guys to kind of hit and for everything to pan out.
And it brings up the part you said, well, and obviously Harold Perkins. Nobody sent nickel PFF pressure than LSU. No one. Not in the SEC. 50% of dropbacks, Major Burns was coming on third downs. 50% of the time. As balanced as you can be. Man, what's up? What do you think about Perkins coming back? And I'm already assuming that he's playing star, but I'm just assuming that. But I guess your thoughts on Perkins coming back here.
I just want to see him unleashed, like just so badly. I think everybody who's watched LSU the last few years does. And I mean, and this is just, I mean, I don't have like a stake in the fight or anything. It's just from watching that as a freshman, it's like you just so badly want to see that. And for him, I mean, because it feels like, obviously the injury this year bottles him up in a way that, but even as a sophomore, he just felt bottled up and never really fully unleashed. I just want to see him get after the passer. And for him coming back, I think it was the right decision. He wasn't going to be a first-round pick. He might not have even been a top 50 pick. And a guy with his athleticism and speed and potential, I think it was probably the right move for him to come back and try at least give himself the chance to try to establish himself as a top 50 pick and maybe even as a first rounder. Some of the things that draft analysts were telling me after Perkins got injured was that maybe he could still be a top 50 pick because of those athletic qualities. But there was a lot of questions even from the NFL about where exactly do you put this guy and the injury, like how much is he going to be able to do in the pre-draft process? And that was a way back. But I think some of those questions about position still apply, and maybe LSU and maybe Harold himself can kind of clear some of that up. All right, finally have a really good season at one spot, and maybe this is a maybe that's been lingering for a few years now, but maybe that can kind of finally help him take that step as a draft prospect and really help LSU defense and make him, as we know, he athletically is capable of being one of the top players in the country.
For 4 weeks after he got hurt, every night in this show, somebody would come in here and say the defense is better without him. And then you gave up 275 rushing yards to A&M, and then you gave up 311 rushing yards to Alabama. And I'm like, we sure? Are we positive? I feel the exact – it's not that you had a stake in the fight. I think everybody wants that exact same thing. I don't think that you say the words Harold Perkins, go. I think everybody's first statement is exactly what you just said. Unleash him. Well, however that is. Well, you sent Major Burns after the quarterback more than anybody. Well, shit. I mean, let's go do that. Let's go get after it. And look, here's the interesting thing that I think what's up with Harold on this, if he moves there, potentially. Tackles don't fan out to star nickelbacks ever. They would have to do something to game plan against him for that. he'd be going up against running backs and tight ends. If he can beat OTs in the SEC, he can beat running backs and tight ends in this league, which could bring something interesting. All right, one more for you here. Well, I mean,
yeah, no, it's a great point. I mean, you match him up against guys who aren't going to be as good at blockers and dealing with him off the edge. Yeah, no, it's a great point.
I mean, why wouldn't I? You only asked Major Burns to go man-on-man coverage, like I think, again, it was like 8% of the time. All right, that sounds great. I will take Perkin in man-to-man coverage 8% of the time. That means you're going to be in zone on the other, and you're going to be blitzing him on the other. So please, dear Lord, for 90% of the time, put him in zone coverage or blitz his ass. Please, dear Lord. I mean, that's just that you were doing. I felt like you were doing it with the wrong person. I saw Major Burns get 2 sacks against Jackson Dart. God forbid what Harold Perkins Havoc could bring. That's all I'm saying. Now it seems like I have a stake in the fight, right? Like I'm being passionate about it. All right, last one, Wilson. There's a position group that every single night, Wilson, on the show that keeps being brought up. Safety.
I was going to say, I wonder if I can guess what it is.
Okay. Well, there's 2, really. Do you want to know what the other one is?
Oh, the offensive line, offensive tackle.
Brian Kelly told you in the interview, correct, that he wanted to go after another offensive line. Let me go there. This kid from Louisville, Mills, entered the portal. I know you asked Brian Kelly, do you think that was like when he said what he said, how did you feel like, hey, I want another offensive lineman, or like, yeah, we might take another O-lineman, we'll see. Like, how did he respond to you in that?
I'll clear that up for anyone who maybe doesn't quite who has questions about it. Yeah, he had answered something about Josh Thompson, and I said, do y'all still have any interest in getting another offensive lineman? And he goes, yes.
Okay.
That was the extent of his answer. It was matter of fact, it was firm. They are still looking for offensive linemen in the transfer portal. Specifically, I think, like you've said, an offensive tackle. I mean, that's not specifically coming from Kelly, but based on what they've added so far, Thompson is a guy who could maybe play guard or tackle if he needs to kick out the tackle. But I feel like, this is my own personal view of it, he probably would be better suited as a guard for you. And then you go and find another tackle to compete with Weston Davis and some of these other guys who can maybe take a step as going into next year, but you get someone a little bit more proven to make sure that you aren't caught flat-footed at that position.
Why didn't we see Weston Davis against Baylor, in your opinion?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously Miles Frazier coming back, deciding to play in that game, put somebody in at right tackle. But why he didn't see any reps at all, I really don't know.
It's just odd. Like 5 stars carry different weight, and everybody understands that. So that's why it was interesting. The other one was safety. Wilson, Sage, Ryan, and Major Burns are gone, and I think that position is in trouble. Maybe I'm wrong. I think it could be in trouble. When you look at it, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, they need to go and add players, and they got to hit on them. That is definitely a position where, like, you look defensively. Okay, you've added you feel, I think, fairly good. Or at least you know what you have. And no, you don't even know what you have necessarily. But, like, okay, you've addressed the defensive line. You feel really good about what you got at linebacker. Corner, even, I think, is pretty solid. I mean, DJ Pickett coming in, some of these other guys they've added. Delane could maybe be able to play safety, but yeah, I mean, you've got Jordan Gilbert, who wasn't great this year. Toviano moving back there. Deshaun Spears. Yeah, you're thin at the position, and you don't have any proven difference maker. And so, yeah, you got to go and address it. And look, even if they don't do it right this month, then you got to get it in the spring. But they do. You probably need to hit on it this month, as we saw last year. The spring is much less certain. You don't exactly know who's going in. Not as many people go in, and then the price gets driven up. And so they need to hit on them, and they need to hit on them over the next couple of weeks. They probably need 2.
I think they need 2. I mean, and look, maybe because you've been spending money, maybe you're more prepared than what you did this past spring. But I remember coming out here every single night, my happy-go-lucky ass, talking about this defensive lineman, this defensive lineman, this defensive lineman, that defensive lineman. And it just like, goodness gracious, you know, and then Brian Kelly going out there and saying, you know, what he had said emphatically, we're not in the business of paying players. Well, funny how a year changes things, you know, I mean, like, you know, so I guess we'll see. All right, Wilson, thank you so much, man. This is always fun to have you on here. I know they know, but just in case they don't, I know your social media handle's there, but where everybody can catch your work, I catch in on your guys' show when you are doing it from time to time. Tell them everything that you guys are doing.
Yeah, obviously over at advocate.com, you can subscribe for all of our LSU coverage. Football, you know, we're not writing about football every single day right now, but if you're interested in women's basketball, baseball, we got daily coverage of every sport on campus, really, gymnastics too, everything. So find us over there. And yeah, our YouTube channel, LSU Tigers on NOLA. We got our podcast going up over there twice a week. And then for more football coverage, we'll have it all as it comes. So every sport on campus, we got you covered. Go find us over there.
I'm not gonna lie. When Koki fired out a baseball tweet yesterday or whenever it was, I was like,
"'Tis the season."
Oh boy, here we go. Valentine's. So Wilson, what do we do here? Opening day's on Valentine's Day. Like, what do you do? Do you miss opening day? Do you take the lady out? Like, what are you supposed to do here?
I don't know what others should. Well, others should take your wife or girlfriend or fiance out. It's one baseball game. You'll be okay. Take care of everything at home. It's okay. And luckily for me, I'm in the position of not having to cover baseball every day anymore. And so my wife is very grateful for that because we will go and enjoy a nice dinner.
I think I've been married now. Facebook tells me that I've been dating my wife for a decade. So I think we're going to. Thank you. I think we're going to be doing the exact same. I know what I do and don't need to do. That is for sure. All right, Wilson, thank you so much, man. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, y'all.
All right.
Have a good one.
That's Wilson Alexander from The Advocate. Always fantastic. You got to take your booze. You got to take your booze out on Valentine's Day. But can you do it the day before is the ultimate question. See, can you finagle some things? That is the ultimate question. All right, we're going to head out here too. Y'all have a good one, man. Peace.